Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Championship Check-In podcast. At the end of another round of Championship games, and at the beginning, or well, 1/3 of the way through one of these lovely 3-game weeks. So lots and lots for us to talk about with the main man, Sam Parkin. How you feeling, Sam?
I'm good, mate. Yeah. Loads of nice goals, wasn't there, at the weekend? Loads of goals, was there not? Don't know. But felt like a pretty fun weekend, certainly for the top clubs that are jostling for position. Loads going in the back of the net. So, yeah, looking forward to chatting through it all.
Let's get into it, Sam. And we're looking for a Parkin's pick for you out of this 12 results in round 31 we've done now, haven't we? It was on Friday night. Big win for the Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday 2, Birmingham 0. In the early kickoff on Saturday, a Desmond, Ipswich 2, West Brom 2. John Eustace with a big win, and he was in the dugout as well. Blackburn 3, Stoke 1. We need to give them more credit, Preston, don't we? I always say, oh, they're still hanging around. Like, damn him with faint praise. Cardiff 0, Preston 2. Nobody called this one, did they? Hull 0, Swansea 1. How about that? Everybody called this one. Leeds 3, Rotherham 0. It was Middlesbrough 1, Bristol City 2, Sam's QPR 2, Norwich 2. Well, Southampton, it's boring that they keep winning, but they didn't do it in boring fashion. Southampton 5, Huddersfield 3. The poor Plymouth fans on their long journey had to go back home to the southwest with nothing. It was Sunderland 3, Plymouth 1. Watford 1, runaway leaders, Leicester 2. And on Sunday, Coventry kept up the pace to retake their playoff spot. They beat Millwall 2-1. What do you make of that little lot, Sam? And any honourable mentions before we talk about your Parkin's pick?
What about an honourable mention for Luke Williams' first win as Swansea City manager?
Didn't see that coming, yeah.
No, I think that's definitely worth a shout, especially the way we were talking about Hull and their array of attacking talent last week. Maybe Coventry getting over the line again. I know we're probably going to talk about them in a few minutes' time. Outside of the kind of headline results, I think we knew it was going to be 2-1. I went for a Middlesbrough 2, Bristol City 1 victory. So, yeah, maybe a shout for Liam Manning's boys as well, going up there and getting a really good win. But, yeah, loads of standout results to discuss now, mate.
And here comes a quite innovative Parkin's pick, which might also double as a cause for concern. We spend a lot of time looking at the top of the table, Sam, but it doesn't really feel right to do that this round. So what is your Parkin's pick / cause for concern?
Well, I did notice that someone did message a few weeks ago when we were discussing the foot of the table and ridiculed our shout that it was possibly 3 from 4.
Lambasted.
I'm not bowing down to that chap's superior knowledge, but we are going to talk. And I'm going to pick out, and it is going to be the cause for concern, the bottom of the table. How many now are engulfed in this relegation battle?
Your language is very floral today, Sam. I love it. Engulfed in a relegation battle. That's tremendous. So, yeah, and I never see it as that you're backtracking. We call it as we feel it at the time. And not even at that point, Sam, but for the longest time, I was like, look, there's 4 teams at the bottom there, and they're all worse than the teams that are directly above them. And I don't know about you, but I don't particularly feel that way anymore. Based on this, Sam, we'll get your take in a minute. We'll work from the bottom of the table up. Let me give you some data here. I've gone back to October the 29th because it kind of suits my narrative with certain results. But that's 106 days and about sort of 16, 17 games. So it's basically the middle third of the season I'm about to tell you about. Okay. Rotherham, sorry, Rotherham fans, hopeless, 0.55 points per game. So abject bottom of the table form. Stoke next, 0.76. So clear relegation form under the 1 point per game. Birmingham, 0.88 relegation form as well. And obviously a manager coming and going there. Could say the same about Stoke, to be fair. Millwall, 0.94, also under the 1 point per game. Blackburn, just above it, 1.06, excuse me. And then Huddersfield, 1 point per game. So we kind of had Darren Moore there. But the interesting ones, this is the bottom 8 here. QPR, 1.24 points per game. That is survival form and some over 16 games. And Sheffield Wednesday, 1.27 points per game. So regardless of whether you think we're backtracking, the data here has got 2 of the teams in the bottom 3 trending far, far better than a bunch of the teams above it. Let me bring the table up for you, Sam, and you can kind of start maybe look at the ones above the line. Apologies, Rotherham fans, but unless there's a big trend, we're going to assume that gap's now getting too big. But Sam, pick that apart, and I'll come back in a minute.
Yeah, I suppose to just continue my backtracking, you know, when you make these statements and when you have this previous discussion, we didn't envisage Stoke City losing 4 games on the bounce. I think Stoke have been that type of team and that type of squad that have been able to churn out the odd result despite all the ongoing issues at the club. So this has taken me a little bit by surprise. I would probably say the 5-game kind of malaise without a win at Millwall as well. I was there, 3 games ago and thought for long periods they were pretty good against Preston North End. So that's another surprising element to throw into the mix as well. And I suppose QPR 8 points from 4 games, I think it is. That's the reason that gap is tightening. And of course, Sheffield Wednesday, I think despite some abject defeats and some heavy defeats, they're attacking games. And we know they're liable to win football matches under Danny Rowe, who still seems to have all the support of everyone at Hillsborough. So all of a sudden, it looks really fascinating. Birmingham have obviously tailed off as well. Last couple of games, I think goal scoring is clearly an issue there. I did note it down. I don't know if I've got it in front of me now, which is annoying, but the amount of shots they've had in the last 3 fixtures is absolutely staggering. I think it was 57 or somewhere around there. Only around 15 on target, if memory serves me right. So they're not maybe creating amazing chances, but I think that's where they're faltering. Blackburn, massive victory for them. Quite strange, I would say, the dynamic in that you had a team that wowed on occasion. Even, what was it, 2 weeks ago, I sat on the sofa at my sister's babysitting her kids and watched the Wrexham game in the FA Cup. And, you know, watching Blackburn is great fun at times. But to go with John Eustace, who clearly did some great work at Birmingham, but is still in the infancy of his career, John's strengths to this point has been setting up a team defensively.
Hard to beat, yeah.
Being hard to beat. So it's a very interesting dynamic there. And to see a load of the comments after the weekend that it was a bit more kind of no nonsense, not taking the opportunity to play out on all occasions, utilising the strength and the physical power of Gallagher and the running power of Dolan and Sammy Smodics. Really interesting, but, you know, it'd be hard to envisage them falling into trouble again. But maybe I said that about Stephen Schumacher a month or 2 ago. So yeah, we've got a race on, that's for sure. And Huddersfield, you know, not even spoken about them. 7 goals in 2 games, and all of a sudden, a bit like Sheffield Wednesday, attacking games and going to win. For so long this season, they've been 11 men behind the ball, trying to get out of away games with a point, and all of a sudden they look to be a really fun watch as well. So yeah, all those teams I've mentioned, maybe Blackburn apart, yeah, they could be in the battle to the bitter end.
So we're looking at these trends then, Sam, and I guess if you look at the points differential as well, although QPR are now only 2 off Huddersfield, but more pertinently, they're 3 off the next 2 teams above them. So you could essentially say, a win in the next game, which just happens to be against Stoke as well, could take them out of the bottom 3 for the first time in a long time. How important is it that bottom 3, it feels like it hasn't changed for absolutely months, which is probably why we formed the opinion that we did. And of the trends that are happening, which is basically everybody, the sort of 4 or 5 above the bottom 3 down and the 2 in the bottom 3 up, which do you foresee being the most likely to continue going in the direction they are at the moment?
All right, it's a really good question. Right now, as we sit here, it would probably be Stoke. I didn't mention the home record, which really surprised me, doing a little bit of prep over the weekend. 8 without a win at home before the game against QPR, and then I think it's Coventry. But obviously a colossal match to kickstart that in the week against Rangers. 25th of October, their last victory at home in front of their own supporters. 22nd best home record. I mean, all these things have just kind of crept up on me. And still a misfiring attack. I always felt that Steven Schumacher's strength would be to get those attacking players going. Well, he's had a high profile in that part of the country falling out with Ryan May, I believe. He's not at the moment training with the squad, and he just can't get them going, those front players. So he's starting to think, how many of these signings in the summer, and there was plenty, wasn't there, are duds. It can't be down to the managers, can it? It's got to be down to the recruitment, and we're 2/3 through the season now, and still we're waiting for some of these front players, these offensive, creative sparks to come to the boil. So, right now they'd be the ones I'd be most worried about. But of course, we don't know what's going on at Huddersfield in terms of the manager.
Is there any chance that they give John Worthington the job?
If this wrangles on maybe for a week or 2 more and he keeps to getting improved performances, then why not? Why not, I would say, because that seems to be he lacks the experience, but it seems to be
there'll only be 13 games left, Sam, by the end of this week.
Yeah, and it seems to be the tone that the owner's been talking in, improving the attacking output, and they've certainly had that in the last 2 games. I don't know. I think I think Michael Duff again has been an excellent manager in the early part of his career. Brilliant, Cheltenham. Really enjoyed watching them, but I think this is a gamble both for him and for the club. So, I wouldn't be too sure that this one's going to get over the line. There seems to be the reports are that there's a bit of a discrepancy over whether he's going to move to the area or what have you. And we've only, what did you say?
It'd be 13 at the end of this week if we
13 games to go. It's it's a bit of a risk, isn't it, to move up and to lay down foundations in a completely different part of the country if the job security is clearly not very evident, and it's not at Huddersfield right now.
Can you see, just to round this out, can you see the trends up at QPR and Sheffield Wednesday? I must admit, I watched the Wednesday Birmingham game, and you've hit the nail on the head. It was a bit hapless from Birmingham. They could well have been comfortably in front by the time they conceded the first goal, and even by the end of the first half. But second half, I thought Wednesday gave it really good crack. And QPR, I know I've been joking all week saying, well, they're not in promotion form because 2 points per game this season might not actually even get you automatic promotion form. But 8 points in 4 games is sensational in the bottom 3, isn't it?
Yeah, and I just think they needed to improve the squad, and I think they've done that. Obviously, Anderson and Frey combined for the goal, the second goal, but Hodge in midfield and
Hayden.
Isaac, Hayden, that's bolstered it. And I just think, defensively they can get it right with Cook leading them, Jake Clark sort of, there's a nice balance there. Just to improve the squad, I think was vital, and the manager seems to have just rediscovered something in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So, yeah, I think they'll continue. And I think Sheffield Wednesday will continue to probably be a little bit inconsistent. But, you know, if they can keep churning out, you know, 1 winning 2, 1 winning 3, the odd point, they'll have a good chance of catching them. And like I said, they seem to have the support at the moment. They've got a bit of momentum despite some indifferent heavy defeats. They seem to have a bit of momentum about them, which is rare considering the results aren't particularly consistent.
But you're totally right, Sam. Down at the bottom there, where a point per game seems to be the gold standard, it's one win every 3 games, isn't it? And if you're inconsistent but you can win, that's actually better than draw, lose, draw, lose. Do you know what I mean?
Go on, mate. You're the numbers man. How many gets you into a position for survival this season? Because I think 45 points was enough last year. And the previous season, someone went down, I think, on 37. So 38 points would have been enough. But we're talking what?
Remember, there was big points deductions that season as well, which does funny things to the total. I think
we're talking 10 more than that, maybe.
I mean, if you look at it, Stoke, if Stoke were to lose the next game to QPR, they'd be at the point per game. So they're projecting 46. Huddersfield are there or about. So as much as it's boring, the number that you're suggesting, either 1 point per game with 46 or just shy of it, which means if you are Sheffield Wednesday, you do still need to crack out sort of 20 points from your last 15 games. And, you know, that is 6 or 7, well, 7 wins will definitely do it in 20 games, would be really good form. But I think there or about, but Sam, surely all that bunch of teams, 1 or 2 of them at least, I'm talking about the teams just above the bottom 3, are going to move away, aren't they? This will be the maximum depth of their trough, and they'll have a run. So I think you're probably right. It will be around that normal 45 to survive 46. And I suppose it'd be a bit unlucky for the likes of QPR and Sheffield Wednesday if it did go higher than that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some just amazing games in the next few weeks. I just noted Millwall's fixtures. They play Ipswich and Southampton, and sandwiched in between a game against Sheffield Wednesday. So, you know, you can't.
Well, that'll keep the total down, won't it?
I think they'll give Ipswich a difficult game, but I'd still just fancy Ipswich to maybe be slightly too strong. Southampton, I could only see that going one way. So the Sheffield Wednesday game all of a sudden could be massive for Joe Edmonds and everyone at Millwall at the weekend. So yeah, there's going to be some twists and turns. I think one team will quite likely drop like a stone from that group of teams we've been talking about, and then it'll be whether they can show the character at the tail end of the season to just get the points that they require. So it could go down to the wire.
And as I always say, Sam, there is no survival race, no relegation race, if the teams that are in the bottom 3 don't put points on the board. Otherwise, everything stays as it is. So even if someone does drop like a stone, it's still incumbent on QPR and Sheffield Wednesday to keep up at the rate they have been for the past 16 games, according to my numbers. There we go. Get involved in the comments. We'll clip this one out and pop it up as a separate video. And you can tell us if it was looking like 3 from 4 6 games ago, 8 games ago, what is it looking like now? Get your views in as we move on to Worldie of the Week. Where does this one rank on your vintage week or not? I think it's pretty good, wasn't it?
I think it was right up there, wasn't it? Yeah. I think there's a clear winner, but I'll do the honourable mentions first. Yeah, it's nice when when you're sitting down and watching the goals and you haven't really read about them or you haven't heard too much about them. And I was watching the Sunderland Argyle goals go in. And when Hardy goes in, you think, oh, he's just going to go around the keeper. Go around the keeper and slot him. Then all of a sudden he makes a complete hash of it and you think the chance is gone. And then he just produced that incredible dink. So, yeah, that was lovely. Enjoyed Clark's goal. Enjoyed Bellingham's, and Bellingham's would have gone close this week, but I just felt it was such a pathetic effort to tackle him. I think it was, is it Nat Phillips? I think was the nearest. Is it Nat Phillips? No, it's not, is it?
Ash Phillips. Nat Phillips gone to Cardiff, yeah.
Was the nearest our goal defender. So essentially, he picked the ball up about 5 yards into the half, and he only beat one man, but it was still an incredible goal. So yeah, definitely wanted to mention that. Emil Reese's was not bad. Ricardo's brilliant team goal at Vicarage Road for Leicester, but yeah, there's only one goal this week, and he scored 2 beauties. I thought the second was a brilliant goal as well. Loved his little look over his shoulder just as he received it before scoring his second. Man I'm talking about is Joe Rothwell.
So where do you stand on this, Sam? Because I know you're quite militant about just blasting it towards goal as hard as you can. This is a brilliant goal, but there is a certain element with this type of volley is, I mean, you tell me as a ex-pro, just trying to get your technique right and hit an area, right? You're not exactly aiming for it to go right in the top corner where it does go, but such a difficult technique with his legs so high, wasn't it?
I think he's putting it there. Yeah, I think he's putting it there. He's putting it in that corner, certainly. And there's probably the understanding when he's lining up to strike that's going to go high.
It's not going in the bottom corner, is it? Yeah.
No, you can't really keep that. You can't really keep that kind of waist high. Do you know what I mean? So it's amazing. It's the timing really is brilliant. I thought it was an amazing goal. You strike one of those maybe one a day in training. Do you know what I mean? Not in a net, but even if you're practicing kind of volleys across the pitch to a teammate, you hit one sweet like that. So
that's exactly what the technique is, isn't it? Where you're trying to float a volley across the pitch. Yeah.
Yeah, you see quite a few like clips on social media of like Barca or Madrid or the Spain national team.
Yeah, and the ball never touches the ground for 5 minutes.
Yeah, sidewinder, is that what they call it? I saw the Twitter feed of Southampton. The admin asked all the chaps to give one word to describe the goal, and I think someone said sidewinder. So that's probably the technical modern term. But no, I thought it was a brilliant goal. I thought it was an amazing game. I think it probably encapsulates the confidence they're playing with, the amount of goals are in the team. 4 goals, 3 assists from subs. I think it was only maybe the Manning delivery for the own goal from Tom Lees that wasn't scored by a substitute. So I spoke about their strength and depth last week, and I think I kind of went quite light on it because I didn't want to offend any Leeds United fans. But I thought that was maybe my point coming to roost a little bit about Southampton. So yeah, to get him and Brooks, Rothwell and Brooks, seems like really good business.
Do you want to talk a little bit? I mean, we're going to ease off the automatic promotion race. I mean, other than to say, I mean, and we've set this narrative up about it now being a 2-horse race potentially for second place, and I suppose with Ipswich drawing again, maybe there's that wrinkle to it. But look, 4 wins in a row for Saints, 6 wins in a row for Leeds, 1 point between them, but Saints with the game in hand and a 3-point gap now down to Ipswich. Have you got any new observations on the promotion race, or are you just waiting to see how this week plays out with Southampton's 2 tricky away games potentially?
Yeah, that would be probably my strongest sense at the moment, that the fixtures get quite nice for him again quite quickly after consecutive games, Bristol City away and West Bromwich Albion away. And these were the 2 that, if people look back about 6 weeks ago, were the games I was earmarking where the run could end. So if they can navigate these
22 undefeated in the EFL now, is it?
Yeah.
So half a season if they get past. And as I pointed out, Sam, in League One last season, Sheffield Wednesday went half a season unbeaten and then didn't win for 8 games, or won 1 in 8 or something, didn't they? So we have had monumental runs go the other direction in very recent history, albeit a division down and not a Year 1 parachute team. But sorry, continue, Sam.
No, so I just you never know what you're going to get from Bristol City or West Bromwich Albion to a degree. At the Hawthorns, give or take, you know that they're going to be, hard to beat, have a game plan and probably keep the score down. But Bristol City, you just don't know if they're probably going to get that finishing touch enough to be consistent. I think it's an exciting time to be a Bristol City fan, and I'll be really optimistic that they can make a go of it next year. But I'd still make Southampton quite strong favourites to go there. I'll put it on you, actually, just quickly. So next 5, Ipswich face teams 15th or below, right? No team in the top half until April the 1st. Is the narrative too strong that this is now a 2-horse race, or could Ipswich respond now, especially the way they ended that game? I know they've scored an abundance of late goals, but I just looked at the players that they threw on, and that's going to give them a boost, and it's going to take a little bit of time for some of those players to bed in. But where do you see their challenge line now?
The problem for Ipswich, Sam, I think, is that a good run for them also has to be coupled by a slip by two teams that look very, very good ahead of them. So it's almost not in their hands, and unless they do something crazy, like, I mean, look, Leeds have 6 wins on the trot. That's what you're up against at the moment. 18 points going on the board in double quick time. So it would need slippage up ahead and for them to come back round. But I think you would have probably enjoyed, Sam, a few balls into the front, being chested down and controlled by Kiefer Moore, and having that wrinkle to the game as well. But it is hard to see, even if Ipswich reset and come into reasonable form, you're in 4th place with 2 points per game. So it just says everything about the standard that's being set by the 3 U1 parachute teams. Is that a fudge of an answer enough?
No, that's fine. Yeah. We didn't learn loads more about Ipswich, did we, the other day? A little bit defensively lax, especially at Portman Road. How many clean sheets has there been? I could only think of 2. I was just
-3.
Yeah. QPR, Preston at home. Stoke?
No, Preston was 4-2.
Sorry, Stoke was 2-0 early doors. Yeah. So there's not been enough clean sheets, and we know, they're going to score late goals. It was funny actually watching West Brom rock like that, because you don't see that too often, do you? I think they had 9 shots, Ipswich, to nothing from West Brom after John Swift's goal. So they really did lay siege. I don't know. That's, like I said, that's it's the manager now, isn't it? He's got to use everything within his power to try and remotivate them and try and say, Leeds host Leicester in a couple of games' time. I think they do anyway, don't they? So there's some big games coming up for those sides, and inevitably there's going to be drop points. So Ipswich have to be there to maximise their potential and their opportunities against some lesser sides in the next few games.
Amen. You've got to make your own bed before you can worry about doing anything else, haven't you? Let's move on to the meltdown moment. Right, I've requested this one, and it wasn't Sam's choice. And this is obviously with full respect to Sam, who did have a pretty gnarly injury back in his Ipswich days. But I just was interested to hear you talk about the attitude of the public and maybe broadcasters to football players getting injured. And yes, we'll put in all the caveats. It's a great career. People love you guys. You get paid really good money, etc., etc. But I get quite cross, with fans who, I don't know, someone gets badly hurt or whatever, and it's, oh no, what's this going to do for my football team, and what's going to happen now? And let's forget about him for the next 3 months while he goes through hell rehabbing, and all his professional hopes and aspirations are hanging by a thread. And look, I know I'll get called a snowflake in the comments, but when Daryl DK has come over to this country, made his name at Barnsley, got a big money move to West Brom, had 2 horrible injuries, just innocuously jumps, lands funny, and is in floods of tears going off the pitch. You don't have to comment on this, Sam. I don't need to see a wide close-up of him crying as he leaves the pitch. And yes, the majority of the Ipswich fans were good and applauded him off. And you get the odd idiot doing this and, baiting someone who's in emotional distress. Idiots going to idiot, aren't they? But when I hear terms like, oh, he's made of glass, or his knees are made of biscuits, or, some of the stuff you hear, can you just talk to me about whether there's enough, and again, I'll get called a snowflake, whether there's enough empathy, sympathy, use whatever word you're comfortable with, to players who are ripping, straining, breaking body parts that would keep civilians like me in our bloody beds for 3 weeks and out of work. Rant over.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't have loads to say on it, really. I'd say the Ipswich fans are more sympathetic towards Daryl Dike than they were me when I went off with my broken ankle. That's in jest, of course. Funny you should bring this up today, because I did see some stuff over the weekend, and I just think it's quite unfair. You know, a friend of mine was over last night, actually, and we had the United game on, and he said something along the lines of, Luke Shaw's always injured, isn't he? I said, well, that's a bit unfair as well. You know, he had a horrendous injury, didn't he? And he got some flack from Jose Mourinho, if you remember, as well, about maybe his mentality, you know, in recovering from an injury. And to my mind, Luke Shaw's been back a year or two now, playing pretty much every week, or probably longer than that. So I thought that was a little bit unfair. And I saw some stuff directed at DK. Oh, he's 23. You know, it's quite early to be writing off his career. And with me, even though I had terrible luck, I you know, discovered probably it was quite to do with my makeup as a human. What I mean is I didn't have any flexibility in my ankles. And this was something that I probably could have worked on and improved over the years, but it was probably an accident waiting to happen with me, in terms of that I injured both the ankles exactly same fashion about 7 or 8 years apart. So this was probably going to happen to me. And unfortunately, for probably the best part of 2 years, I was having operation after operation and fighting for my career. And it's only now with retrospect, I think back, I was living by myself at the time. And like you say, you're getting a good living, you're making a good living, but not being able to play, it's just soul destroying. Going into the gym every day, away from the group. The worst part of it, I can tell you, was going to the first team games. And it was only for a brief period at Ipswich, but at Luton, it was the best part of 18 months. And that, it's an incredible test of character, going in the dressing room, seeing the players, seeing the manager who would, you know, kind of be jovial-ish towards you, but you know what everyone's thinking, or you've got a thought process of what everyone's thinking about you, and then going out and facing the fans and hearing the mumbles and hearing the groans. And you know, the odd person would be nice and tactful, but the majority would just, you know, think you were a waste of space. So it was terribly difficult for me. Sorry, I digress a little bit, but I just think there might be something in Daryl Dike's makeup that they're exploring now, why this keeps happening. But you know, I'm a decent example that there were things I couldn't do after those 2 years at Luton, but I got back playing for another 6-7 seasons or whatever it was, not to the heights and not with the goal scoring return that I would have liked. But Daryl Dike can go on and still have an amazing career. This is just a bump in the road. So yeah, I don't like seeing some of that stuff, like writing him off, you know, like we read a lot about it with Reece James as well at Chelsea, another example. He's having a horrendous time. He's having a horrendous time at the moment with injuries. He's missed so many games, but it's not to say that he could be, you know, one of England's best players again in a year or two. He's got talent. So, yeah, you'd like people to be a little bit more lenient.
Amen. I just think we make it theatre, don't we? But the people in it, it's not an actor in Game of Thrones whose story arc finishes and they get killed off and the actor dusts himself down, collects his pay packet and goes on to his next job. It's a human being that's to
think that you're going to have that length of time again, you know, going through the rehabilitation. Kind of when I first got injured at Ipswich, listen, it wasn't, of course, it wasn't a positive, but I could be so balanced about it because I hadn't missed a week of. I hadn't missed more than maybe a week or two of training or football since I was about 14 years old. So I kind of switched it and thought for 10 years, I've pretty much been playing football every day of my life. And maybe this is nature taking its toll. You were going to get an injury. So I could put a little positive slant on it. Right. And also I'd started badly at Ipswich and I thought, what a great opportunity to watch and actually settle into the area. watch what was going wrong at the time within the team, and see how I could improve it when I come back and how I could improve as a player. So I had that mentality. It was just obviously later on, as it transpired, I got further and further issues with the ankle, and it become, you know, a long running saga. But initially, I had that kind of mindset, and Daryl DK possibly would have had something similar with the first injury. How you recover now from this second long one, that's going to be a huge test of his mental strength. And knowing the way the game's improved and how everything has improved in terms of the setup, the medical setups, the awareness of people's mental health, hopefully he will be you know, nurtured over this period and brought back an equally good player.
Well said. Let's end it there. Specifically, we'll wish Daryl DK good luck, because he's had nothing but bad luck. Wish him good luck with his recovery. And if anybody watching this just takes 3 seconds just to think about any player they've referred to as injury prone or whatever expletive goes in front of it, then our work is done here, Sam. And there is a human body and a human being on the other end. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox, Sam, and we're going to look ahead to a midweek round with round 32. What do we got on Tuesday night? And we're looking for a mouthwatering matchup, Sam. We have to return immediately, fortuitously, of John Eustace to Birmingham with Blackburn. We got Leicester, Sheffield Wednesday, Norwich versus Watford. It's Rotherham versus Hull. Swansea versus Leeds, which I believe has a very charismatic co-commentator on Sky Sports Arena in midweek, if I'm correct.
I'm going to have a go, mate. I'll have a go. I'll have a go at bringing some charisma.
Mr. Parkin, if you're watching Sky Sports Arena tomorrow night as we're recording, Sam will be on co-coms there. Bristol City versus Southampton. There is West Brom Cardiff, which takes us to Wednesday night. Is that 7 games on the Tuesday then and 5 on the Wednesday? That doesn't do for my OCD, does it, Sam? I like 6 and 6. Huddersfield Sunderland is Wednesday. Plymouth Coventry. Preston versus Middlesbrough. Stoke versus QPR, we've already mentioned. And a Valentine's Day trip for Ipswich down to Millwall. Sam, we're going to go for a mouth-watering matchup, please. A few contenders there, isn't there?
Yeah, top of the pops, wasn't it? Top of the tree. Birmingham against Blackburn, first off the bat.
And your old mate, John Eustace, I just want to go back to a comment I made, actually, or a question I put to you. I said, if they changed the manager, Sam, when we were talking about Thomason, they might be in trouble. And I've reviewed that because they've changed the manager and put in somebody that we know firsthand is going to, hopefully, for Rovers' sake, take their good attacking play under Thomason, but add the solidity they need just to, in the short term, stop the bad trend down the table. So I think I'm quite good with this hire, to be honest. And yes, we're going to get accused of bias because we had him on the channel earlier in the season, but I'm trying to be as fair down the middle as I can.
I haven't messaged him, actually. That reminds me. Better say well done. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? When you just, there's a lot of stuff kind of whirling around in my head there. But when you think of what he was probably trying to make Birmingham become this season, which was a little bit more exciting, and to kind of introduce a few more flair players during the transfer windows, which I think they've done, Birmingham. I think they're still a little bit short. What I'm getting at is I think he's inheriting probably what Birmingham will become over the next couple of windows. So it's good attacking players at Blackburn, unquestionably. Obviously, one of the man of the season, men of the season in Sammy Szmodics. And interesting to see that little tweak of system at the weekend. How much was down to John Eustace and how much was down to some of the backroom staff? I don't know, but it looked like kind of a 3-4-2-1 with 3 roles for Dolan and Szmodics off Gallagher. I think Hedges coming back in. That's quite big news for them. Plays a lot of games. I know he's missed a lot this season, but when he's been fit, featured heavily under John Dale Thomason. I think he gives them a lot in the wide positions. And obviously they've strengthened defensively in the market. And they've got some kind of John Eustace looking type players within that, in McFadden and Fleck coming in. I know he didn't play at the weekend, but yeah, it was a really good victory. And yeah, they'll go to Birmingham in better goal scoring form. And if John Eustace can do what he did at Birmingham in making them harder to beat and harder to score against, it could be a really good appointment. It could be a really good appointment, because it just feels like Blackburn have got a lot of those commodities that Eustace was striving for at Birmingham, was just still a little bit hamstrung, and probably just needed January and probably needed the summer. Because I look at Birmingham going into this game, lost the last 3 without scoring, spoken about the amount of attempts, but I still think they lack conviction in the forward positions. And I was really surprised at the lineup. No Stansfield, no Miyoshi.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hogan, I looked at that. What's he seen there? And he's seen a lot more than me, because he's watching them every day and he's setting up the game plan. But I just thought that Stansfield, and particularly Stansfield, is probably their best chance of goals at the moment. I still think they're massively short in that department. That said, I thought the performance at Hillsborough was okay for large portions. Just lacked that cutting edge. Still not sure about the goalkeeping options. But
Sam, I think, if I can just interject, I think if the second half had played out similarly to the first half, and I was a Birmingham fan, I'd be much more satisfied, because you can have a game like that where you have lots of possession and you don't take your chances. But are you not a bit concerned how they kind of flaked out a little bit in the second half? And you couldn't say in the second half, that was against the run of play, or Sheffield Wednesday didn't deserve that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I was more going on the evidence that they seem to be more comfortable. They seem to be more cohesive. There seems to be, more passing moves, complete contrast to what we were seeing early part of the season, and maybe what Wayne Rooney was trying to execute as well. So Tony Mowbray seems to be coaching them, and the messages seem to be getting across. Just, you do worry about, obviously, both ends of the pitch. Lacking that conviction definitely in the opposition's 18-yard box, and prone to giving away goals. So it's not a great combination. Something inside of me says that they will be okay. But I think this is a kind of 50-50 game. But we know Blackburn don't like drawing. We'll see if that changes under a more pragmatic manager.
I think it might be changing, Sam, for sure. We'll get into that in the predictions. By the way, this week, we are going to attempt to do the midweek predictions, and we'll see where we are later in the week in terms of actually getting both in. Sam is very motivated for reasons you'll find out in terms of the predictions this week, because he might have been in quite good form. Speaking of someone who was in quite good form at the weekend, Sam, let's move on to player to watch. So this will give us a bit of a chance to talk about Preston and maybe a little bit about the playoff chase. Mads Frokjer Jensen, Sam, is our player to watch, and it should be perfect, shouldn't it? This kind of European number 10. I must admit, I found him a bit surly when I saw him at Portman Road. A bit whingy. You could see he was a player. 2 assists. Could have had a third one with a lovely swivel and ball through towards the end of the game. What are you thinking here, Sam, in terms of Frokjer Jensen? Look, 24 as well, European signing. Is he starting to come good now? And with Preston still, it sounds like I'm disrespecting them, hanging around in those playoff spots, could an informed number 10 make me stop disrespecting Preston and stop just saying that they're hanging around, Sam?
Yeah, well, I think it feels like it's been like a long season for him already. There's been like quite a lot of column inches written about him. Remember, he started really well, period out of the side. Ryan Lowe saying he wasn't probably defensively diligently enough or giving enough to the team, and now he's really blossoming. So I think there's a good player in there. I think sometimes the game can pass him by to a degree. The numbers aren't staggeringly good, are they? I think 3 goals, 6 assists, if memory serves me right, so far this season. It's not a bad return. I just think all of a sudden, Preston seem to have probably their best 11 available, and Ryan Lowe's picking that 11.
And some belief and confidence now, yeah?
Yeah, and I think if you've got Brown and Whiteman, I think it was them at the weekend. Obviously, Miller and your Potts on either side. 2 proper strikers that can hold it.
Reece. Yeah.
Reece is obviously not at the heights he was last season naturally, but he's getting back there. Brilliant goal. And then you've got an out-and-out crafty number 10 who can see a pass. And my goodness me, that assist for the Whiteman goal was sublime. Oh. So he's definitely a talent, and you almost need to just give him that platform and give him that freedom. And that's what I feel when I watch Preston, because when they are kind of in the groove, they're a good side to watch. I've always been a big fan of Whiteman. I say they can be a good side to watch. We don't see it nearly enough. So this feels like a pivotal moment in the season. Back-to-back wins, I think. Only twice they've achieved that since their brilliant start to the season. So consistency's been sorely lacking. But yeah, he's a talent, that's for sure. And absolutely, if they're going to finish the season strong and somehow get that 6th position, I would suggest him and Jakobsen could be the main reasons for that.
We're not going to talk too much about the playoff chase this round. Just an addendum last week. We had a few outraged Hull City fans. Sam Parkin was asked by me about teams currently outside the top 6 potentially getting in, which is the reason he didn't mention Hull, who were last week inside the top 6. So, yeah, if you were particularly offended by that, you really, really shouldn't have been. But a little bit of do-si-do going on there, Sam. Obviously, Hull went into the round in 6th. Sunderland was 6th after Saturday. We had Norwich drawing, and then Coventry took 6th once again. So we're all over the place in this sort of chase, and it has closed up with West Brom's draw as well. Are we going to be backtracking similarly as we were down the bottom and maybe making 5th a bit more available, or do you think West Brom are still cruising for that position?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'd really fancy West Brom strongly for the playoffs. It's amazing that I don't think I've heard anyone in any kind of media outlet or anything speaking about the potential of West Brom being a Premier League side next season, which just shows you how focused everyone's been on. Yeah, Ipswich is good half to the season, and they're amazing season in truth, but the 3 relegated sides, West Brom, if they're in the playoffs, nobody will want to face them.
With that manager, yeah, good.
Yeah. And, I think they're still joint most clean sheets, I believe, with Leeds. So, defensively, they're so strong on their day. And they've added loads. Yes, they've lost DK, but they've added, 2 or 3 attacking players in the window. So he's got options there, Carlos Corberan. So, yeah, I'd still fancy them strongly. I mean, Coventry over the last 12 games, 5 more points better off than Sunderland, 10 more better off than Hull, and they've had 6 more than Norwich. So, over a quarter of the season, last 12 games, they are far and away the most informed side. But Sunderland,
and you could see them maintaining that as well, couldn't you?
You can see them maintaining that because of the return to form, return to fitness of Callum Maher, the time it's taken for the new signings to bed in and start showing their real quality, the experience of last year. There's a lot of ingredients there, but then
good, doesn't it?
But then you can make a case for the amazing window that Hull had, the season that they've had, the clever coach. Norwich, I don't think are performing brilliantly, but are now picking up results. And I think
they've got good players, Sam.
They've got good players, and they've got individuals that have come back to fitness at the right time. So, I'm pinning quite a lot on that. Both ends of the pitch. Who have I missed out? Sunderland, back-to-back home wins. and that good point at Middlesbrough. And all of a sudden, with a couple of little tactical tweaks and some good partnerships across the 11, they're looking like a force again. So, yeah, and Preston, the other ones the other ones that I haven't spoken about in that little minute or two, but we know what they're capable of. I'd still call them massive outsiders. I still think that Ryan Lowe is probably going to come in for some stick in the weeks and months that remain of the season. But, you know, I'd be more than happy to eat humble pie if they can turn things around and get in the playoffs. That would be an incredible achievement after how low I think the feeling has been towards the team and the management over the last kind of month or two.
So, pretty standard championship fare. As usual, at this point of the season, we've got about 11 teams in our 4 playoff places. And that's why we love the playoffs. Let's finish up this podcast with the week that was. So, I think the score is 15-11 to you, Sam. 15-10. God, I nearly gave myself an extra point there, Sam. Questions as ever from our good mate, Fev, the Bristol City fan. Fev's Football Analytics on Twitter, at Fev's Football. Would you like to ask, Sam, or be asked first?
I think I probably need a degree for this one, but I'll go first.
You're going to ask? Or...
I'm going to ask you first. Yeah.
Okay, let me close my phone down. Go ahead.
Okay, so with John Dale Thomason becoming another managerial casualty last week, this week's round is manager bounce or manager flop. So my question for you is, did each of the 5 managers that I'm about to name bounce or flop in terms of points per game versus the manager they replaced?
Okay.
So has the incoming manager got a better points per game than the manager they replaced?
I understand.
Okay, so I'll give you a point. You got 5. I'll give you a point per correct answer. And then I presume I'm going to have 5 points to play for as well. Mm-hmm. So first one, Danny Roll against Xisco Muniz.
Oh, bounce massively.
Correct. 1.15 versus 0.20. 1 point.
0.20. That's awful.
Joe Edwards against Gary Rowett.
Ooh, not much in that, is there? I'm going to say flop.
And you would be right. Joe Edwards has accrued 1 point per game versus 1.36 Gary Rowett. So 2 from 2. Wayne Rooney v. John Eustace.
That's the easiest one of the lot. Flop.
Correct. 0.67 Rooney against 1.64 Eustace. So you're 3 from 3. Michael Beale v. Tony Mowbray.
I'm going to say bounce because he's actually got a few wins, Beale, hasn't he? Bounce.
I think this one, this is the tightest of the 5. So Beale, 1.56. Mowbray, 1.42.
Yes.
4 from 4. Luke Williams, Michael Duff.
Williams hasn't got many points at all, has he? But Mike Duff didn't. Oh, God. Not much in this. Let's go with... He's only got 1 win, Williams, hasn't he? Let's go with Duff. So flop. Williams the flop.
Bang on, mate. 5 from 5. Williams 0.80. Duff 1.11. All the ones.
Okay. Let's get involved with your 5 then. It's exactly the same thing. You've got a nice easy one to start then. Darren Moore versus Neil Warnock. So did Moore flop or bounce?
Flop.
He absolutely flopped, didn't he? 0.91 for Moore, 1.14. Close one to home for you, Sam. That's 1 for 1. Gareth Ainsworth across to Marty Cifuentes. Did Cifuentes flop or bounce?
He's got to have bounced just about,
hasn't he? Massively bounced.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, point by a factor of double, 0.57 to 1.24.
Lovely.
Oh, here comes a tricky one. Nigel Pearson to Liam Manning. Did Liam Manning flop or bounce.
Oh, yeah, it's too tight, isn't it? Where were
It's
they?
very tight.
They won. It's just basically been the same, hasn't it? I will go for a marginal. I'll go for a marginal bounce.
It's good news for me because you're wrong, which means I'm going to take this week's. But it's so tight that he flopped by 0.04 of a point per game, 1.25 to 1.29. Let's see this out, even though I've got the win, which I'm ecstatic about. Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, go for it.
Liam Richardson replacing Matt Taylor. Did Richardson flop or bounce?
Has he had one win and a draw?
It's not been good.
Oh, I don't even know on that. They've not won away. How many did they have at home? He had a couple of big wins, didn't he, against good sides? Did he not? Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna go for Liam Richardson has bounced.
No, he flopped. So only 0.07 of a point per game. I think I think Feb's trying to help me with the comeback here and giving you some of the tricky ones here. Finally, 0.6 points per game for Richardson and 0.67. So not much in it. Steven Schumacher replacing Alex Neil. Flop or bounce?
This has been really hard, this has. Well, he was unbeaten, wasn't he, in his first, 4 or 5? Then he had one win.
Draw heavy, though.
One at Millwall, I think. And one at Birmingham, didn't they? One at Birmingham. So he's had about what, 8 games? And they were unbeaten for 4, or maybe 10 games, unbeaten for 6. Yeah, I'd say he's flopped.
You would be correct. He's flopped. The number you were looking for was exactly 1 point per game. He's got Schumacher. Alex Neil had 1.05. So for once, Sam, I can't believe I'm getting competitive here. I can't believe I'm so pleased about actually winning one of these. But yeah, thank you, Fev, for your questions as ever. And what does that put the scores to? I'm coming back, Sam. It's 15-11 now. And if you're a fan of competition between me and Sam, you can check out the predictions, which we will get to you ahead of the midweek round. Sam, do you want to just do a quick plug before we finish for your appearance on Sky TV tomorrow?
Yeah, Sky Sports Arena, Swansea against Leeds. The only game you want to be watching.
And I'd just like to give a plug for my watch-along, Bristol City versus Southampton, at exactly the same time as Sam is commentating on Swansea Leeds.
Aren't you doing one Wednesday? Just plug the Wednesday game there, innit?
Mate, it's Valentine's Day. I'm not getting away with doing anything football-related on Valentine's Day.
Oh, you're going down the den? Taking her down the den?
What a way to finish the podcast.